Hey Canucks fans, welcome to another edition of Ask Me Anything. I'm Clay Emo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter. I'm at Clayton Emo on Instagram. I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club. This is my Canucks take, all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Sunday, December the 27th. This is where you get Canucks insight that's positive and timely. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Started off by going to Mass this morning with my son Jacob. As you know, we live stream from our church. Then had a great lunch, usual Sunday brunch and lunch with my family. Now doing laundry, fantasy football, doing some stuff on my YouTube channel, getting ready to bowl tonight. And of course, don't forget the live stream is tomorrow night, Monday nights now for the past month and a half, 2 months or so. Today's Sunday, so that means a lot of Ask Me Anything questions. Some really good ones today, a nice variety. So let's get right into them. The first one is from Brad Clarkson. It says, happy holidays. Same to you, Brad. We all saw Horvat take another step in the playoffs. Ask me anything. Do you see Horvat keeping up or coming close to what we saw in the playoffs from him? Thanks for the content as always. Well, you're most welcome, Brad, and thank you for the wonderful question. You know that Bo Horvat is my favorite player of the entire current Vancouver Canucks team. I like him on the ice. I like him off the ice. My son Sean caddied for him 5 years ago in the Jake Milford tournament, and I've had a chance to interact with him a couple times as well in the past. Wrote a song about him, blah, blah, blah. But your question is about, do I think Horvat's going to be able to keep it up? I do, actually. I think the playoffs from last season probably gave him newfound confidence. He's always had a decent offensive game. But we remember some of the goals he made, especially that wonderful one against St. Louis, shorthanded where he walked two, admittedly they're St. Louis forwards, but he still walked two forwards on his way to beating Bennington. A highlight reel goal, one of the top 10 goals of the entire season. I think offensively, Horvat's always had confidence, and we see that when he tries to do that inside-out move or that toe drag, the outside-in move, I should say, the toe drags and things. And I think defensively, playing against guys like Ryan O'Reilly in the playoffs, and all the good forwards that Vegas had, I think Horvat held his own, and I think that should really, really help him when it comes to this upcoming season. Now, when you think about on the ice, he's going to have to pull his fair share. You have Pettersson obviously as the top line center, but Horvat, you never know who his right winger is going to be, right? It's been like the constant storyline for his career with the Canucks, his 5 years so far. You never know who's going to be on his right wing, and I think that's still the same question to answer this season. He knows he's got Tanner Pearson on his left, so maybe sometimes Horvat feels like he's got to do a lot. He's got to be like the engine that runs that line, so to speak. So all to say, I do see him keeping up with how well he played in the postseason. I think it's a confidence thing, it's a maturity thing, it's a leadership thing, and I think we need him to. So, and we know that he takes a lot of pride in his game. So I'm confident that he will keep up a strong play, resume a strong play from this past summer. Harsimran says this, what is your favorite forward, D, and goalie of the Canucks, Jets, Lightning, and Avs? And I think he means one from each team, because Harsimran, I know he watches my vlogs regularly. Thank you, brother. And he knows that those are my four. He's smart. He knows that those are my four favorite teams. And it's funny, actually, I always talk about the Jets being my second favorite team. I've mentioned the Lightning being my third favorite team, but I think I've only mentioned once that Colorado is my fourth favorite team. And so I'm very impressed, Harsimran, that you actually got that in the question. I presume, if you're talking about out of all four teams, just one forward, one goalie, one defenseman from each, then I would say, although I think Pettersson is the most exciting, Bo Horvat still is my favorite player. I got to go with Quinn Hughes, but then I would go with Connor Hellebuyck as my favorite goalie from all four teams because, because you guys know that I like him a lot, and my cousin Dusty has worked with him. But if you're talking about, one from each, I can do this pretty quickly. For the Canucks, obviously, then it would be Bo Horvat as the forward. It would be Quinn Hughes as the defenseman. And I really like Thatcher Demko. I think he's going to be really good. Obviously, a big honorable mention to Elias Pettersson. He's amazing, but I've always liked Horvat as my favorite player. I just talked about him for the last 3 minutes or so. On the Jets, up front, I really like, I like a lot of their forwards, but I do like Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. But let's go with Scheifele. I think he's a good leader, and I think he's a gritty player and obviously very skilled. So let's go with Scheifele up front. Actually, Wheeler's good too, so is Liney, but we'll go with Scheifele. On the D, I don't even know like a good Jets defenseman. Is Trouba still there? I'm gonna look him up right now. But obviously, my goaltender is Connor Hellebuyck. My cousin Dusty, before he went to the LA Kings for 4 years, he actually did was in the Winnipeg Jets organization for 2 years. And I've talked about this before. Dusty worked with both Michael Hutchinson and Connor Hellebuyck at the time. So I'm looking at, no, Jacob Trouba's gone, right? Like he's been gone for a long time. So I'm not going to pick Lucas Spiza. So actually I do like Josh Morrissey's game. Let's go Josh Morrissey for the Winnipeg Jets. And yeah, Trouba is playing with Rangers, of course. Okay, so let's keep going. For the Lightning, might seem really easy, but I like Stamkos. I like Hedman. I've always liked Hedman's game, and Vasilevsky. And then for Colorado, I really like, I love McKinnon's game, obviously. And I've always had Landeskog in my pool, but I like Mikko Rantanen. I think he's really good. So I like Rantanen just a tiny bit more than McKinnon, even though he's not Canadian. On D, well, so many good defensemen. I'm going to like Bowen Byram for sure. But I do like Cale Makar. I like him a lot, even though he beat out Quinn Hughes. You can't argue with his game. And then whoever the Colorado goalie is, I don't really pay much attention. So that was probably a way longer answer than you expected, Harson, but I want to, and then obviously show I didn't know anything about the Jets defense. That was a little embarrassing. Okay, Nux 649 says this: have you decided what day the NHL 21 live stream is? Monday night this week? No, I talked to my boys, and we're not going to do it this Monday, but we're going to do it next Monday, January the 4th. So I kind of wait to bring in the new year. Yes, it's technically at the tail end of the break, but we're going to do it on Monday night, January the 4th. Patrick Starr says, which Canadian team do you think the Canucks will struggle against the most? This is a great question, Patrick. I've always said that Toronto's going to be the best team, and I've always said Winnipeg is going to be sixth best, but I'd say those two teams. I say Winnipeg, actually. We know the Canucks, for whatever reason, they just don't match up well against Winnipeg, and they haven't beaten them in the past few seasons. It's funny because Winnipeg doesn't have that strong of a D, but I think with Vancouver's offense, I don't see a really strong defensive core in the entire NHL. You have really good players like Shea Weber and Morgan Riley and Mark Giordano, Chris Tanev even. So they're decent players, Darnell Nurse, decent defensemen throughout the entire North Division. But I wouldn't say there's 1 through 6 a really strong defensive core. So I do think that the Canucks are going to do well offensively against all the teams. So then I think about which teams actually have a lot of good offense and a lot of good goaltending. And then when I think of offense and goaltending, the two teams that come to my mind are Toronto and Winnipeg. Toronto, obviously, we know of their offensive firepower up front, and I think Frederik Andersen made a lot of good strides at the end of last year. Winnipeg, as you talked about, Connor Hellebuyck in the back end, and you have Wheeler, Scheifele, Laine, Connor, some really good, Nick Ehlers, some really good forwards for Winnipeg. So those are the two teams that I think the Canucks are going to have the most trouble with. Because like I said, defense across the board, I think it's going to be a wash, more or less. So then you're looking at goaltending and then offense that you have to defend against. So I'd say Toronto, Winnipeg, and if I had to pick one, I just think the Canucks really get it up for the Toronto games, and we are going to be, our rabid fan base is going to be up for those games. So I'm going to say if I had to pick one, the Canucks will struggle the most against the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, that's my answer. Kevin Tulek, question for you. Are you working on your Stanley Cup song? Not yet. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because they got to make the playoffs first, which I know they will. But we'll work on playoff songs before I get to my Stanley Cup song. Is it going to be a short season? Well, we know it's going to be 56 games, so it's going to end in May 8th. And will we be hosting the Cup before you know it? I don't think we'll be hosting the Cup this year, but my hope is that we are contending in the next 2 or 3 years for sure. And I've said that for a long time. Remember last year I said it would be 4 or 5 years, my famous quote with Thomas Drance. So that means by extension, 1 year's gone. So I'll say in the next 3 or 4 years, the Canucks will be contending for the Cup. Maestro says this, ask me anything. Do you think the NHL should bring back the old playoffs format? Maestro, I presume that you're talking about the format that we had since 2013 all the way until last year, which is the 1 through 8 conference seeding with the top 3 in each division making it, and then the next 2 best teams being the wild card teams playing against the division winners. So you go 1 through 8 on each side, and then you pair down from that. I think that's what you're talking about, because I'm sure you're not talking about the bubble last year, and I don't think you're talking about this year either, obviously, because it's not old. So if that's what you mean about the old playoff format, no, I'm actually fine with the divisional format. I really am with winner coming out of the division, because it creates more rivalry, and then traditionally you have at least one winner from each division in the final 4. As opposed to, I guess the old way of the conference seeding, you'd still have that, but then you'd have kind of like weird matchups where you're playing outside of your division. That just felt a little weird. So I don't mind, and this is kind of like the old school way. So I'm kind of fine with that. So I'm in a non-COVID season, where you have your traditional 4 divisions and you got to get out of your division first. I'm fine with that if that's what you're talking about. If you're asking me if they should bring back the old playoffs format, the 1 through 8 per conference, I'm fine with the divisional style for sure. Rome, how do you think the team the Canucks had in 2011, this Rome Ticklin, would have stacked up against the Edmonton Oilers dynasty team in the 80s in a best-of-7 series? Wow. So we're talking about the Oilers team that had Gretzky, Curry, Anderson, Paul Coffey, Grant Fuhr against the 2011 Canucks. I really like the Canucks' depth on that team, you know, especially in their D. Their D was stacked. But obviously it depends how, you know, is the game going to be played and called in 1980 style where you can basically do anything, mug each other, versus tighter how it is now. I don't know. I still think that Edmonton team, it was too powerful. Like, our top line guys were good, the Sedins, Kessler, Burrows, but you can't compare them to Gretzky, Curry, Anderson, Messier, Coffey versus our stud, I guess in 2011 was Ehrhoff and Edler. You know, goaltending, maybe we have a bit of advantage because of Luongo against Grant Fuhr. But the thing, as much as I love Luongo, if the Edmonton got a couple quick goals on him, mentally would he be able to handle it? So I think the Oilers would win in 6 games. That's what I'm going to say. The Oilers would beat the 1980s Oilers would beat the 2011 Canucks in 6 games. But it'd be a tough series for sure. And feedback for you today: do you think GM has made this a rebuild year? Too many high-paid but weak forwards to set up development and signings for next year? Yeah, I don't think he's intentionally done it that way, feedback, but I think that's the way we're treating this year. And you can tell because we haven't gone out, we haven't aggressively moved money to bring in some really good free agents like a Hoffman or a Vatanen or a Hamonic yet that could help this team. Rather, they've been talking about, it sounds like they're going to give young guys a chance to make the roster. And you can see they're not spending. I wonder if there's a director from the Aquilinis not to spend too much money this season. Then we know a lot of money is coming off the books in the next 2 seasons. Can help because we need to resign Pettersson and Hughes. So yeah, I wouldn't say they're not tanking this year by any means, but they haven't been as aggressive as they could have been on the free agent market. So whether you call it a rebuilding year or a year where they kind of accept the fate of what happens and then really build aggressively from next year on, I think that's a fair statement to make. So there we go, Canucks fans. Thank you for your wonderful questions, a really great variety, and I hope I answered them to your satisfaction. Leave me a comment below, your reaction to my reaction to your questions, your reaction to my answers. Would love to know your thoughts on some of my answers. And yeah, wish me luck bowling tonight. And I will see you guys tomorrow during the day for my vlog and then tomorrow night for my weekly live stream. So in the meantime, subscribe if you'd like to. Like this video if you like to. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Have a great day. God bless, and go Canucks go.